I started preschool here, and then I went through kindergarten and grade school and stuff like that, and I was always able to fit in well.
I played baseball on my high school baseball team for 3 years. I was the captain of the baseball team. I was the editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper.
I finished high school in 4 years, and I was number 6 in my class.
When I got to high school, I did well on my SATs. I had about a 95 average. I graduated 9th in my class of about 650.
I just graduated in this past month in December, and I did, my major was sociology and I minored in history.
And then I went to a CUNY school where I got my bachelor's degree in biology. And then I went on to study for my master's degree, which I am currently working on. And my master's degree is going to be in nutrition and exercise science.
Besides CUNY, I was able to get into some good schools like NYU, Stevens, Fordham.
Now I'm in grad school and I'm going to graduate soon.
And I hope to become a high school biology teacher.
I definitely want to go for my PhD in sociology and teach at a university.
Possibly one day attend medical school. When I was 6 years old, I had no idea what was going on. It never even occurred to me, probably till my senior year in high school, when I was applying to all of these colleges and taking my SATs and things like that. And then everybody would talk about applying for financial aid and things. And then when I looked into it, I realized that I couldn't because I didn't have the proper documentation. I came to this country 1994, and my parents thought that we would have better opportunities here in terms of education and lead a better life here.
The economy in the Dominican Republic in the 1990s was not that great. My father lost his job, and we were at the point where it was either starving to death, not being able to go to school, or coming to New York City.
I came to the United States in 1999 with my mom and my sister, and we came as tourists. But once we were here, the three of us asked my dad if we could stay, and he said yes, so we stayed.
I came to this country in 1994. I was told the reason we are coming to the United States was my parents wanted to make a better living.
The children had no choice in coming here. They came with their parents. They loved their parents loved them. Their parents probably came here because they wanted to give a better life to their children in the first place.
When I came to the United States, I was about 4 years old.
I came to this country when I was 9 years old from Bangladesh.
And I'm from Colombia.
I came to New York City when I was 13 years old.
People started noticing that all of these children who came at a very young age, who were not born in the United States, but who came at a very young age, were getting kind of caught in the middle.
If a person comes to the United States when they're 4 or 5 years old and their parents decide to stay here unlawfully, this child goes to school in the United States and grows up and socializes like every American kid.
You know, children shouldn't have to bear the brunt of what their parents do. Now, on the other hand, we also have children who were born here, but their parents came here and are not documented.
It really frustrates me when people say that, oh, it's so easy to get your papers. Well, it's not. The reality is something different.
There's a lot of misinformation about immigration to the United States, and people think the process is a simple one, when in fact immigration laws in the United States are some of the most complicated laws that you'll ever see.
People might say, oh, why don't you just go get sponsored, or why don't you just go apply? They don't understand that once you've been deported by the U.S. government, that you're seen as a criminal.
If you are an undocumented alien, what does that mean? That means that you are restricted in terms of what you can do and where you can travel. There's a fear that if you get caught, you'll be deported. And so even if you're very skilled, right, and very knowledgeable and can contribute a great deal of productive value to society, because of the constraints, the legal constraints against your legitimate status, you're not going to be able to do those things.
Generally, the way I would define an undocumented alien is someone who doesn't have status in the United States, who's not under an immigrant or a non-immigrant visa, and is living here without the benefit of protection of the laws. A lot of people come here illegally and apply for asylum. A lot of people remain here in the United States unlawfully for many, many years and really have very few options about legitimizing their status.
You either won a lottery in your country of origin, you got married to a U.S. citizen, or your employer sponsored you.
And even marriage is not 100% guarantee. People might think that it's automatic when you get married. It's not. Once they realize that you've been deported, the only thing you could do is you could reopen your case and hope that the judge sees that you've been here for a long time, you've been a good citizen, and you deserve to get a green card.
I've always heard different stories from my parents about our whole process here. I know that we came here on a visit visa, and we decided to overstay that visa.
What that means is you have a period of 2 years to visit the country, and you have to go back after when your visa is expired.
I did have the experience of visiting New York, but only as a tourist. So it was a totally different experience from when my mother told me, okay, we're going to New York to stay in 1997, because my father lost a job, and so we were in a terrible situation. And so we had to leave and stay and live here.
When we came to the United States, we came with a tourist visa, and we never tried to adjust our status until my uncle found out that he could sponsor my dad. And through my dad, my mom and my sister and I would also be eligible for status adjustment. So in 2001, we submitted all the paperwork, and we're still waiting on the case.
Then in 5th grade, we found out that my dad had a brain tumor. So me and my mom and dad, we figured that America would have the best treatment for him.
It's been almost 9 years since we submitted all the paperwork, and I actually went to see a lawyer last year to ask him what he thought about the process and everything. So he told me that because it's through my uncle, and that level of relationship takes a really long time in immigration cases to process. So he said that it will probably take between 10 and 15 years.
Before the visa actually expired, we tried to apply for some type of status here, and we met up with this lawyer who basically made us fall into his trap that many other people fell into, and he told us to file for a political asylum. And after we filed for that, my family and we got some documentation like social security cards and work authorization, but later on we found out that we were denied the asylum.
So we went to a lawyer, and the lawyer told us that you need to change your names, change your date of birth in order for you to show that you're running away from something in your country. And I guess my parents, they weren't familiar with the legal system, so they decided to do what the lawyer told them to do. And we went to court, and the process dragged for a year or two, and then eventually we were told that we were rejected. We were denied political asylum. Actually, just recently found out that the lawyer that handled our case spent time in jail. We weren't the first family he told you have to change your name, your date of birth, and you have to make up a story. For some, he even made up the story for them. He told them, this is where you're going to tell the immigration employee. Eventually, INS caught on that he was doing this to so many people, and people who just came to this country they didn't know any better. They thought he knew exactly what to do to, make their lives better by getting them a green card. Now, a lot of people are suffering the consequences because of that lawyer. He was messing with their lives. We were given an option to leave the country voluntarily, or if we decided to appeal the case and we lost, they would immediately kick us out of the country. So my parents decided that we would take a voluntary departure, and we were told that we had to leave within 2 years, and the 2 years came and went. We never left the country.
So after we were denied the case, my father already had a job here, and he felt that it's just best if we stay here in case some types of law passes or later on there's something we can do to adjust the status.
I did not think of the extent of the problem of staying my visa until when it actually expired. And I remember it was in my junior year, in high school.
But unfortunately, nothing happened, and we were just basically stuck here. And my parents have both held up jobs, and me and my sibling have just gone through school and education and through college and everything. And we basically can't work or anything like that because of the documentation.
I guess they couldn't understand me because I am the first one to actually have made it through college in my family. So I guess they did not understand me in the aspect that they don't know what it's like to have that dream, to really have that desire, to really have that urge. And to me, it was like really a necessity to prove to my family that yes, it's possible, And as much as I was determined and passionate about it, I felt stuck. And that's a really horrible feeling to have.
The number one restriction, which I don't even think about anymore, are my brothers. I haven't gotten to see my brothers in 16 years. My parents haven't seen their own children in 16 years. And that's the biggest restriction, is not being able to go back. But I'm a little selfish, and I have other restrictions which are in the forefront.
We don't have a social security number. We don't have a work permit. So basically we can't get any type of legal work. Everything has to be off the books. Also for school, we don't get financial aid, and even though I received some scholarships at first, they were taken away because I couldn't file a FAFSA form.
What do you work towards if you're here and you're 4 years old, right, and you're undocumented, and you go to high school, and everybody's talking about college or work post-college, and you don't have those options? So it means that people, undocumented people who want to attend the university, are funding themselves essentially to do so.
At least in New York City and in some of the states, we're able to attend college.
I think that they're choosing institutions that are local and where their families are, and that are affordable, for sure.
I was able to get into some pretty good schools, but unfortunately I wasn't able to attend them because of the prices of these schools. Some of these schools cost like $30,000 to $45,000 a year.
As an undocumented student, I had to step up even more and work extra harder to get to what I want.
It's very demoralizing, and it's actually could lead to all kinds of activities, from simply dropping out of high school, right, to becoming involved in the informal or illegal economy because you don't have any alternatives.
Having this threat of deportation or punishment, I think is a terrible, terrible thing, and I think it's a tragedy because it doesn't have to be the case.
I've never been really fearful of being deported.
Because I do see cops stopping people at random and asking them for ID.
It has crossed my mind, it does cross my mind.
But if I actually did something wrong,
My whole life would turn upside down if I was to be deported.
I really don't know what would happen.
I would do as well as any American would do in a third world country.
The NYPD does not have an official policy in regards to, undocumented immigrants. If an undocumented immigrant commits a crime or anything like that, if they have some form of valid identification, they can actually, they could receive a ticket, or if they have no type of identification or anything, then, we pretty much have to send them to court, and then it's on the court's decision on what happens.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Saad Nabil, and I bring this video to you to tell you that after living in the United States since the age of 3, I was deported when I turned 18 years old. I lived a total of 15 years in the U.S., and I was attending the University of Texas at Arlington with a full scholarship in electrical engineering, and I was forced to leave it all behind because of immigration. Starting on November 3rd, I got a call from one of my relatives in Allen, Texas, I believe. He told me that my father was taken that day and was sent to a detention facility. So I had to leave my apartment, I had to leave my classes and my education behind, and I had to go with my mother to seek refugee status up in Canada. And they sent us back to U.S. immigration. So that night I was handcuffed with my mother, and we were both sent to detention facilities, aka jails. I spent 42 days in jail living with 60 men. Yeah, 60 other guys in one room. So after 42 days in that one room, I was forced to sign a paper saying that I couldn't return to the U.S. in 10 years. And the reason I was forced was because they told me if I refused to sign that I would be criminally charged. And on January 4th, I was deported to Bangladesh, a country I haven't seen since the age of 3. I have no memories at all of this place whatsoever. The only home that I know is in the United States of America. Well, here's hoping that I get to come home soon. If you guys can help me, that would be awesome. God bless.
Currently, there aren't very many ways of adjusting my status. One would be if a law passes with the government.
There's all this talk about the DREAM Act and how the DREAM Act is going to give students who are in my situation their papers, but this has been going on for years now. I could think of it's been 9 years, 10 years that there's been talk.
If you came when you were young and you went through U.S. institutions and you attend a 4-year college or join the military, you can find a path to citizenship. Now, I think the DREAM Act is important. I think it's a Band-Aid.
These poor kids who are here at no fault of their own, who really didn't have a choice about whether they stayed or left, are going to suffer greatly if this doesn't pass, and I certainly hope it does pass.
Each of our cases, it's not equal to another. I mean, my immigration experience is totally different to another undocumented students, and so not all undocumented students are going to fit into that legislation. So that doesn't really solve the problem. We really need an immigration reform that would tackle not only undocumented students, but the families that also come here. I felt as if no one was there to help me. And again, I don't think there was that much they could do. I mean, after 2001, especially after the terrorist attacks, there were not that many laws available to help me either.
There's a big difference in immigration post 9/11 as opposed to prior to 9/11. There's an awful lot of arrests that happened after 9/11 in pursuit of terrorists. I mean, they pursued terrorists, but they picked up a lot of illegal aliens, people who were innocent, and ended up spending a lot of time in jail and having a very rough go of it.
The problem is not the immigration. The problem are the violent acts committed by people, wherever they come from. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And if you try to address it by closing our borders, well, I think you're using a bazooka to swat a fly, if that's the correct analogy. In other words, the means that are used are all out of proportion and misdirected. I mean, it's a very unnatural thing, but understandable thing for people who live here now, whose ancestors themselves came here undocumented, to want to preserve what they see as their own way of life. It's understandable, but that doesn't mean one has to approve of such things.
Some of the misconceptions are that undocumented people come in and take jobs, that they're all on welfare, that they use government resources, that they don't pay taxes.
There's an irrational fear. Well, they're taking away our lower-end jobs. Well, there's not a fixed number of jobs available. As long as people, want to consume goods and services, and as long as our economy is free enough to enable people to enter those areas, that's where the jobs will be created.
I didn't want to burden my parents. They had to send money back to my two older brothers, and they had to support me, and they had to support themselves. So I had to get a job off the books during college, and even in high school, I worked.
What's next for me, it's all blurry right now. Even though I have a set goal in my mind. And it's blurry because I feel as though I'm living in a glass box where everything is visible to me. I have so many possibilities. I can go to this grad school, I can go and work. There's so many different good things for me to do. And I know I can do it. Yet, it feels as though I can't get out.
Once I graduate from CUNY, I'm not quite certain about what I'll do. It really depends on my status.
I am hopeful. I do want things to change, but there's also a part of me that doesn't really believe in it.
Kind of not very hopeful that something's gonna come up soon.
You have to have hope in order for you to go on every day, wake up every day, and do the things that people do.
I have many dreams that I want to accomplish, and I have a lot to give to the American society. I want to pursue a career that not many people want to pursue, and I'm very passionate about it. So I believe that I really deserve to be able to get a job and move on with my life legally.
I have encountered many undocumented students who I guess are not, I'm not going to say courageous, because I think they are courageous just from the fact that they do what they can every day, but who are afraid of even telling their story. And I think that the more we tell our stories, the more society and the world would understand us, and I guess the more likely Congress will eventually pass a legislation that will help all of us.
On April 9th, 2010, my father was deported to the Dominican Republic, straight from the court in Massachusetts. I did not have the chance to say goodbye.